Welcome, intrepid souls, to a realm where the very sands whisper tales of ancient dread, where shadows stretch long across sun-baked stones, holding secrets that have slumbered for millennia. What if the echoes of Pharaohs' voices still resonate within the labyrinthine passages of their tombs, not as benevolent guardians, but as malevolent sentinels guarding curses meant to devour those who dare disturb their eternal rest? Imagine standing at the threshold of an ancient burial chamber, the air thick with dust and the scent of decay, a silence so profound it presses against your eardrums, only to be broken by an unseen scuttling or a faint, disembodied sigh. Have you ever considered that the treasures we unearth from the earth might carry not just historical weight, but the heavy burden of untold suffering, the vengeful essence of kings and queens whose slumber was violently fractured? Tonight, we journey deep into the heart of Egypt, a land synonymous with wonder, but also with an unparalleled, chilling power, where the lines between history and horror blur, and the legacies of empires are etched in the very fabric of an unforgiving, ancient land. We will unearth the chilling narratives of imperial curses, the undying fury of pharaohs, and the spectral return of mummified entities, all born from the shifting, treacherous sands of terror that have long cradled the darkest secrets of this mystical realm. Feel the desert wind, dry and hot against your skin, carrying not just grains of sand, but the faint, unsettling whispers of those who were laid to rest, and of those who perhaps never truly found peace. The tomb's silent scream, the curse of Tutankhamun. Our journey into the heart of Egyptian dread begins, as it so often does, with the most famous, perhaps the most potent, of all imperial curses, the chilling saga that unfolded after the sealing of Tutankhamun's tomb. Picture the year 1922, the Valley of the Kings baking under a relentless sun, the air shimmering with heat and the fervent hope of discovery hanging heavy, a tangible expectation among the excavation team led by the tenacious archaeologist Howard Carter and financed by the enigmatic aristocrat Lord Carnarvon. For years, Carter had toiled, his spirit unwavering, convinced that the tomb of the forgotten boy king, Tutankhamun, lay hidden beneath the relentless sands, a final, untouched marvel amidst a valley long thought to have yielded all its secrets. Then came the fateful day in November, a triumphant shout echoing through the ancient necropolis. "At last, I have made a wonderful discovery." The words reverberating not just through the dry air, but through the annals of history itself. The world watched, breathless, as the sealed doorway to Tutankhamun's resting place was finally breached, revealing a vestibule overflowing with unimaginable golden treasures, sarcophagi gleaming with the promise of immortality, and the silent, watchful gaze of ancient deities carved into every surface. The very air within the tomb, untouched for over 3 millennia, was charged with a palpable stillness, an almost oppressive reverence, as if time itself had paused, holding its breath for this monumental intrusion. It was a moment of unprecedented triumph, a testament to human perseverance and the allure of untold riches, yet beneath the shimmering gold and the vibrant frescoes, an ancient malevolence stirred, a silent promise of retribution for those who dared to violate the pharaoh's sacred sleep, a promise whispered by unseen forces from the depths of the duat, waiting for its opportune moment to manifest. Yet, as the wonders of the tomb were catalogued and carefully removed, a subtle, insidious dread began to weave its way through the joyous celebrations, slowly but surely transforming triumph into terror. The first ominous sign, retrospectively imbued with chilling significance, came in the form of a cobra, the very symbol of royal protection and vengeance in ancient Egypt, found in Carter's personal quarters, having devoured his pet canary. It was a stark, unsettling omen, interpreted by many of the superstitious Egyptian workers as a direct warning from the desecrated pharaoh himself, a precursor to the wrath that would surely follow. Then, just months after the tomb's opening, the patron of the expedition, the esteemed Lord Carnarvon, succumbed to a mysterious illness, a fever brought on by a mosquito bite that quickly escalated into pneumonia. His death, on April 5, 1923, was sensationalized globally, fueled by whispers of the curse. The peculiar details only amplified the terror. At the precise moment of his passing in Cairo, all the lights in the city inexplicably flickered and died, plunging the metropolis into an eerie darkness, as if the very cosmos acknowledged the pharaoh's vengeance. Simultaneously, thousands of miles away in England, Carnarvon's beloved terrier, Susie, let out a mournful howl and also died, a chilling synchronicity that defied rational explanation, cementing the belief for many that an unseen, ancient power had been unleashed, a silent, relentless hunter tracking its prey across continents and through the veil of existence itself. The deaths continued, a grim procession of individuals connected to the tomb, each demise fueling the escalating panic and bolstering the terrifying narrative of Tutankhamun's vengeful spirit. Arthur Mace, a respected member of Carter's excavation team, who had been present at the unsealing, suffered from a debilitating illness and passed away shortly after Carnarvon. George J. Gould, a wealthy American financier who visited the tomb, developed a sudden high fever upon returning home and died days later, his robust health seemingly evaporated by the tomb's unseen influence. Even the charismatic Aubrey Herbert, Carnarvon's half-brother, who had also been present at the opening, tragically passed away under mysterious circumstances just months after the discovery, leading to widespread speculation of a more insidious, supernatural affliction. Dr. Archibald Douglas Reed, the radiologist who X-rayed the mummy, mysteriously fell ill and died shortly after, his medical expertise seemingly powerless against the ancient malevolence. The sheer number of fatalities, though explicable by mundane causes when viewed in isolation, created an overwhelming pattern of misfortune that defied simple coincidence, especially when framed against the ancient Egyptian warnings found near the tomb, some of which hinted at the swift wings of death for those who disturbed the king's peace. The press, seizing upon the sensational narrative, amplified every suspicious detail, transforming a series of unfortunate events into a compelling, terrifying saga of supernatural retribution, solidifying the curse of the Pharaohs in the public imagination, a chilling testament to the unseen, potent forces that still guard the deepest secrets of a forgotten world lurking just beyond the threshold of our understanding. Despite rational attempts to debunk the curse, attributing the deaths to ancient molds, bacteria, or simply the psychological toll of such intense work under stressful conditions, the legend of Tutankhamun's curse has endured, a potent testament to humanity's deep-seated fascination with the unknown and the terrifying power of ancient beliefs. Howard Carter himself, the man who peered into the face of a pharaoh untouched for millennia, famously lived to a ripe old age, seemingly immune to the malevolence that claimed so many others. Yet, even his survival has been folded into the mystique, sometimes attributed to a unique protective amulet, or perhaps a silent, terrifying pact with forces beyond human comprehension. The very air in the Valley of the Kings still feels heavy with unspoken histories, the distant call of a hawk echoing like a cry from another time, reminding us that these ancient lands are not merely archaeological sites, but living, breathing repositories of myth, magic, and enduring peril. The story of Tutankhamun's curse has seeped into popular culture, inspiring countless films, books, and chilling campfire tales, becoming a universal archetype of forbidden knowledge and the perilous consequences of tampering with the sacred dead. It forces us to confront the unsettling possibility that some places, some artifacts, are imbued with an ancient essence, a lingering will that transcends mortal understanding, capable of reaching out from the depths of time to exact its terrifying, patient revenge, reminding us that even in our modern scientific age, there are mysteries that refuse to be explained, and some doors, once opened, can never truly be closed without a price. The breath of Osiris, the undying return of the mummified. If the specific curse of a pharaoh can reach across millennia to exact its vengeance, what then of the broader, more primal dread associated with the very concept of the undying mummified, those preserved bodies intended for eternal life, but perhaps inadvertently primed for a terrifying reawakening? Ancient Egyptian beliefs were meticulously structured around the journey to the afterlife, a complex tapestry of rituals and spells designed to ensure the deceased's eternal existence in the field of reeds. The mummification process itself was not merely an act of preservation, but a profound magical ritual designed to meticulously house the various spiritual components of a human being: the ka, the life force, the ba, the personality and soul, capable of journeying between worlds, and the ak, the perfected spirit. To desecrate a mummy, to disturb its elaborate resting place, was not just a crime against the deceased's physical remains, but an act of cosmic violation, tearing at the very fabric of their carefully constructed path to immortality, potentially trapping the tormented soul in a horrifying liminal state between worlds. Imagine the sheer terror for ancient Egyptians, rooted in their profound understanding of these spiritual intricacies, to witness a desecrated tomb, to envision a Ba unable to find peace, left to wander the land of the living, burdened by fury and despair, seeking retribution for its severed connection to the afterlife. It is from this deep-seated fear of cosmic imbalance and spiritual torment that the terrifying legends of mummies returning to exact vengeance have sprung, becoming an enduring testament to the power of ancient beliefs and the terrifying potential of magic intertwined with the sanctity of death. Beyond the specific curse of Tutankhamun, the very notion of a reanimated mummy, a dry, husked revenant propelled by ancient rage, has fueled nightmares for centuries, finding its most potent expression in Victorian-era horror and subsequent cinematic masterpieces. These fictional portrayals, from Boris Karloff's haunting Imhotep in The Mummy, 1932, to Brendan Fraser's swashbuckling adventures, tap into a primal, universal fear, the violation of the natural order of life and death, the grotesque animation of what should remain eternally still. But the roots of this fear are not purely fantastical. They are deeply entwined with historical practices that, in retrospect, seem profoundly unsettling. The Victorian fascination with Egypt led to macabre mummy unwrapping parties, where actual ancient mummies were brought from Egypt and publicly unrolled for entertainment, their brittle linen bandages carefully peeled back to reveal the ancient withered remains. Picture the scene: gaslight flickering, the scent of dust and ancient resins, curious onlookers murmuring as the secrets of 3,000 years were casually exposed for morbid amusement. It was in these very gatherings that whispers of strange illnesses, unexplained misfortunes, and disturbing psychological effects began to circulate among those who attended, subtle suggestions of a lingering malevolence adhering to the desiccated flesh. Some reported sudden, debilitating fevers, others inexplicable nightmares, vivid and horrifying, that left them trembling long after waking. A few even claimed to hear faint, dry rustling sounds in their homes, or perceive an unseen presence, a cold shadow that followed them from the moment they gazed upon the exposed face of the long dead. One chilling, lesser-known account whispered among Egyptologists and seasoned excavators speaks of a specific mummy, not of royal lineage, but of a high priestess named Neferkare, whose tomb, discovered deep within a forgotten necropolis in the 19th century, carried an unusually potent curse. Unlike the grand royal tombs, Neferkare's chamber was modest, almost hidden, suggesting a desire for privacy, perhaps even secrecy, in her eternal slumber. Inside, her mummified form was found not within a grand sarcophagus, but shrouded in layers of finely woven linen, adorned with intricate, almost alien-looking amulets that seemed to pulsate with a dark, latent energy. The initial team that found her reported an immediate, profound sense of dread, a coldness that penetrated their bones despite the searing desert heat. Within weeks of her discovery and transport to a European museum, a series of bizarre and increasingly violent misfortunes plagued the researchers and curators who handled her. One archaeologist developed a grotesque skin condition that rapidly consumed his flesh, causing him to appear mummified in life. Another was found dead, his face contorted in a silent scream, surrounded by scattered, unreadable papyrus fragments that had accompanied Neferkare. The museum itself experienced inexplicable power failures, objects flying from shelves, and the terrifying sound of ancient, dry whispers echoing through the darkened halls after closing, often emanating directly from the exhibit room where Neferkare lay. The most terrifying account came from a night watchman who claimed to have seen her, not moving but standing upright in her display case, her withered eyes briefly open, gazing directly at him with an unbearable, ancient fury before collapsing back into her rigid repose. This particular mummy, unlike others, was eventually reinterred, returned to the Egyptian sands with elaborate rituals, a desperate attempt to appease a restless spirit whose unnatural repose had been violated, a silent acknowledgement that some things, once disturbed, can never truly be tamed, and that the breath of the Undying can freeze the living heart with an unearthly chill. Echoes from the duat, forbidden rites, and pharaonic sorcery. If the fury of disturbed mummies is a tangible terror, then the unseen, insidious power of pharaonic sorcery, the very rituals that bound and unbound spiritual entities, presents an even more profound and unsettling threat. Ancient Egyptian magic, known as Heka, was not merely a collection of spells and charms. It was believed to be a fundamental cosmic force, an animating principle that underpinned creation itself, woven into the fabric of reality. Pharaohs, as divine intermediaries, and their high priests wielded this Heka with immense power, not only for protection and healing, but also, in the wrong hands, for curses of unparalleled potency, for manipulating the very forces of life and death. The most sacred texts, such as the Book of the Dead and the coffin texts, were repositories of spells designed to guide the deceased through the treacherous journey to the afterlife, to ward off demons and ensure eternal rebirth. But within these vast corpuses of knowledge and hidden in darker, lesser-known scrolls lay the chilling potential for forbidden rites, for invocations that could distort the natural order, summon malevolent entities from the shadowy duat, or bind souls to an eternal, tortured servitude. Imagine the ambition of a pharaoh, not content with earthly power, seeking to conquer even death itself, or to extend their reign into the spiritual realm, perhaps attempting to twist Heka for purposes never intended by the gods, unleashing a cascade of unforeseen and terrifying consequences upon their kingdom and its future generations. This pursuit of ultimate power, blurring the lines between divine decree and demonic pact, forms the dark heart of many Egyptian legends, where the whispers of ancient magic still echo, promising immortality to the audacious and eternal torment to the unwise. One of the most captivating and disturbing tales of forbidden knowledge and magical transgression revolves around Prince Setna Khemwaset, son of Rameses II, a real historical figure known for his scholarly pursuits and fascination with ancient texts. In legend, however, Setna becomes an intrepid, yet ultimately reckless, seeker of ancient secrets, particularly obsessed with the legendary Book of Thoth, said to contain spells of immense power, capable of enchanting the heavens, understanding the language of animals, and even reanimating the dead. This wasn't merely academic curiosity, it was an insatiable hunger for power, a desire to pierce the veil separating mortals from the divine. The book, however, was guarded by the mummy of a long-dead prince, Naneferkapta, and his wife, Awer, who had both perished attempting to wield its dangerous knowledge. Despite chilling warnings and supernatural deterrents, including a spectral banquet where Naneferkapta conjured visions of his own painful demise and the tragic fates of those who had previously touched the book, Setna's ambition drove him forward. He ultimately seized the book, believing himself triumphant, but unknowingly unleashing a terrifying curse upon himself and his family. His actions led to the horrific illusion of him falling in love with a beautiful, seductive woman who revealed herself to be a grotesque, demonic entity sent by Naneferkapta, driving Setna to murder his own children and publicly humiliate himself before the illusion dissipated, leaving him shattered and despairing. This cautionary tale, whispered through the ages, vividly illustrates the terrifying consequences of coveting forbidden magical knowledge, of attempting to wield power that is too ancient, too vast, and too malevolent for mortal hands. It speaks to the idea that some secrets are meant to remain buried, their very essence a poison that corrupts the soul and devours the mind, proving that even a prince steeped in wisdom can be undone by the seductive allure of absolute power and the vengeful magic of a long-dead sorcerer. Beyond the specific narratives of cursed texts, the very landscape of ancient Egypt itself seems to be infused with the lingering echoes of grand rituals and the chilling consequences of potent, misdirected Heka. Consider the desolate ruins of temples or forgotten cities swallowed by the sands, places where the air hangs heavy with a palpable, almost suffocating presence, as if the very stones remember the incantations chanted there, the offerings made, and the dark energies invoked. Legends persist of certain pharaohs who, in their desperate quest for eternal dominion or to solidify their divine status, commissioned sorcerers to perform rituals of terrifying magnitude, not merely to secure their afterlife, but to bind the very elements of Egypt to their will. Some tales speak of a forgotten pharaoh, driven by paranoia, who attempted to imbue the desert winds with a living malevolence, intended to decimate his enemies, only to find the power turn upon his own people in the form of ceaseless, blinding sandstorms that swept away entire villages, burying them forever beneath the shifting dunes. Their screams muffled by the swirling grains. Other myths describe powerful priest-kings who attempted to merge their consciousness with the Nile itself, hoping to control its life-giving floods, but instead unleashed an ancient, aquatic entity, a monstrous guardian that would rise from its depths during the darkest nights, dragging hapless victims into its murky embrace. These stories serve as stark warnings, reminders that the line between reverence and hubris is perilously thin, and that the profound spiritual power inherent in the land of Egypt, when tampered with, can retaliate with a terrifying primal force, leaving behind not just ruins, but an indelible stain of fear and an enduring sense of dread in the very earth that witnessed such forbidden acts. The shifting sands of despair, lost cities and desert apparitions. As we venture beyond the confines of tombs and temples, the imperial curses of Egypt take on a new, more expansive dimension, manifesting not just as the fury of individuals, but as the very essence of the ancient landscape, the shifting, treacherous sands of the Sahara, a vast, primordial entity that swallows secrets whole and births nightmares from its desolate expanse. Imagine yourself lost amidst an endless expanse of dunes, the sun a merciless hammer above, the silence broken only by the searing whisper of the wind, carrying fine particles of sand that sting your skin and cloud your vision. This is a place where mirages play cruel tricks on the mind, conjuring shimmering oases that vanish as you approach, driving desperate travelers to madness, their pleas swallowed by the immensity of the desert. Have you ever felt the profound disorientation of such a place, where landmarks vanish overnight and the horizon stretches infinitely, blurring the line between reality and hallucination? It is in this environment of sensory deprivation and existential vulnerability that the most ancient and terrifying legends of Egypt's curses are born. Legends of forgotten cities, once grand and vibrant, that were abruptly consumed by the sands, their inhabitants cursed for unknown transgressions, left to wander as spectral inhabitants of an invisible metropolis, their silent suffering echoing through the dry air. These lost cities are not merely archaeological curiosities. They are believed to be places where time has warped, where the tormented souls of their cursed inhabitants remain, forever trapped in a cycle of despair, their spectral forms sometimes glimpsed in the swirling dust devils, or heard in the mournful howl of the desert wind, warning those who dare to stray too far from the known paths. Deep within these vast, unyielding stretches of sand, away from the familiar roots of civilization, reside beings far older and more malevolent than any mummified pharaoh, the jinn of the desert, particularly prominent in Egyptian and Middle Eastern folklore. These aren't just figments of imagination. For many, they are very real, potent entities, unseen but powerfully felt, capable of both benevolence and horrifying malevolence. In the scorching heart of the Egyptian desert, jinn are often depicted as ancient, vengeful spirits, guardians of forgotten places, of gold hidden beneath the dunes, or of secrets that should never be unearthed. they are said to manifest in various terrifying forms, as swirling dust columns that suddenly take on humanoid shapes, their eyes glowing with an unearthly light, as disembodied voices whispering incomprehensible warnings or tempting illusions to lost travelers, or even as monstrous, shapeless horrors that emerge from the sand itself to prey on the unwary. Tales abound of caravans vanishing without a trace, their bones later found scattered and sun-bleached, with no explanation other than the silent, predatory work of an ancient jinn that resented their intrusion into its sacred domain. One particularly chilling legend speaks of a solitary traveler, driven mad by thirst and exhaustion, stumbling upon a magnificent, shimmering palace in the heart of the desert, only to discover, as he entered, that its opulent halls were filled not with treasures, but with the spectral, silent figures of those the jinn had already claimed there. Faces frozen in expressions of eternal horror, their presence a silent, terrifying warning of the desert's true, predatory nature. The sands themselves, seemingly inert and ancient, are believed by many to be a living, breathing entity, a primordial being that guards its secrets with an almost sentient malice. Imagine the terror of being engulfed by a sudden, violent sandstorm, not just a meteorological event, but a manifestation of the desert's wrath, a swirling vortex of blinding dust and stinging grit, carrying with it the disorienting screams of ancient lost souls. Travelers caught in such storms often recount experiences that defy rational explanation: sudden drops in temperature, the terrifying sensation of unseen hands pulling at their clothes, the overwhelming smell of decay and ozone in the swirling chaos, and the chilling sound of disembodied laughter echoing through the blinding haze. Some survivors, their minds forever scarred by the experience, speak of glimpsing ancient ruins momentarily exposed by the tempest's fury, only to be swallowed again, as if the desert intentionally offered a fleeting, terrifying glimpse of its buried past before sealing it once more. These are not merely stories, they are deeply ingrained cultural fears, born from millennia of navigating an unforgiving landscape, where the line between natural phenomena and supernatural malevolence is incredibly thin. The enduring mystery of the Egyptian sands lies in their capacity to conceal not just physical remnants of forgotten civilizations, but the very essence of ancient curses, the lingering rage of pharaohs, the restless spirits of the mummified, and the malevolent presence of primordial beings. They remind us that some forms of terror are not confined to crypts or rituals, but are woven into the very fabric of the earth, waiting patiently, silently, to claim those who dare to trespass upon their ancient forbidden domains. Thus, we conclude our descent into the chilling heart of Egypt's imperial curses, a journey through time and terror, where the echoes of ancient fury still reverberate through the sun-baked sands. We have peered into the opulent yet perilous depths of Tutankhamun's tomb, witnessing the terrifying cascade of misfortunes that followed its breaching, a stark reminder that some slumber should remain undisturbed, some secrets forever veiled. We have contemplated the profound and unsettling concept of the mummified dead, not merely inert remains, but potential vessels for undying rage, their preservation a double-edged sword capable of both eternal life and eternal vengeance, their ghostly touch capable of freezing the blood in your veins. Our minds have grappled with the insidious power of pharaonic sorcery, the chilling narratives of forbidden rituals and cursed knowledge, where the ambitious pursuit of ultimate power led to unforeseen and horrific consequences, leaving behind a legacy of dread that lingers in the very air. And finally, we have ventured into the vast, unforgiving expanse of the desert itself, a living, breathing entity, a crucible of lost cities, spectral jinn, and primordial horrors that remind us that the earth beneath our feet holds ancient malevolence, capable of swallowing whole civilizations and driving men to madness with its silent, terrifying power. As you reflect upon these narratives, these whispers from the abyss of time, ask yourself, were these mere coincidences, tales spun by an overactive imagination, or are they testament to an enduring, unseen force that transcends our understanding? Perhaps the ancient Egyptians, with their profound connection to the spiritual realm, understood truths that we, in our modern world, have long forgotten or willfully ignored. What if the very act of unearthing their past unleashes not just dust and artifacts, but fragments of their ancient will, their unyielding curses, their undying fury, still potent enough to weave threads of misfortune into our present reality? Consider this. Even now, as you listen to these stories, are you not feeling a subtle shift in the air around you, a prickle on your skin, a phantom whisper carried on an unseen breeze, a faint, unsettling scent of ancient resins and dry dust? The sands of Egypt are vast and silent, yet they remember everything. And some things, once roused from their millennia-long slumber, never truly sleep again. Be careful what you seek in the depths of ancient lands, for sometimes the greatest treasures are those that remain forever buried, their curses dormant, their terrifying fury forever contained within the untouched, silent embrace of the earth.